Look at Monty, she's very honest.
Monty? Okay.
Yeah, I say honest.
Okay. Because some of what we're going to talk about, like, is one of the first things we're going to talk about is controlling what you can control. And there are a lot of external things, right? And the external stuff, while it does have an impact, there's really not a lot you can do about it. And so when you're talking about mentality, we're going to talk a lot about what you can do and what you can control and where your responsibility lies and your accountability lies. Because you can never guarantee what the external influence is going to be, So that's one question I had for you, and that's good. Now, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to put your heads down, and all I want to see is hands. Okay, and ask a couple questions. This way, nobody has to know who feels, in certain ways. But if you feel like you're pressing and trying to do too much, and that it's limiting you, raise your hand. Okay? If you're worried that you are letting somebody down if you don't perform well, and that somebody could be your parents, it could be your coaches, it could be you, it could be your teammates. Raise your hand if you feel like you're letting someone down if your performance isn't there. All right? Now, raise your hand if you're letting the lineup card, or playing time, or the position you're playing, or the role you're being asked to execute. Raise your hand if you feel like that's affecting your ability to perform. Okay, good. All right, you can lift up your heads now. All right, so all of those things are normal to feel, right? And some hands went up for every question. And that's okay. Like, that's part of it. All right, so what we're going to do in here today is I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a refresher on what mental toughness is. Does anybody think they remember? Do you think they remember what that definition was? I know when I gave it to you, it was like September 7th. So it was a long time ago. Okay. Anybody have an idea? Want to take a crack at it? Anybody remember what AAIT stands for? Who can tell me what AAIT is? Raise your hand. We're in class.
I don't want his attitude.
Okay. First A is attitude.
Approach.
Yeah. Do you know what the I is? Intensity. Good. You were asking, not telling me, but you got it right. Okay. And then what's the T? You didn't raise your hand. Toughness. Right? Attitude, approach, intensity, toughness. And what mental toughness is it's your ability to have the right attitude, and you have to choose that. You have to make a conscious choice. Like, it does not come to you. It doesn't fall from the heavens, land through your head, and enter your body. You have to pick it. You have to make a conscious decision to have the right attitude. Okay? So mental toughness is, can you choose the right attitude? Can you stick to your approach? Can you remember, despite the things that are going on, despite the game maybe being out of hand, despite maybe, whatever negative thing is going on, despite failure, despite, your mom and dad in the crowd, despite whatever's going on in your personal life, like, can you remember what your approach is? Can you remember what your job is, and can you stick to doing your job and stick to your plan? Can you burn at the right level of intensity? It's like a fire. If we go out and we have a cookout, and I want a real nice steak, well, I better get that thing burning at 450. And I'm going to sear it on both sides for 3 minutes, and then I better move it off the heat for another 6 minutes. If I do that wrong, if my heat is 300, my steak's going to suck. It ain't going to cook. If I set it to 1,000, I'm going to have a hockey puck. So you got to have the right level of intensity. And that means you got to know when it's time to be quiet. You got to know when it's time to be calm and relaxed. And you got to know when it's time to freaking go. You got to know when it's time to compete. It's time to get after somebody. And you have to be able to make that choice too. Because again, that's just a choice. And then you have to be tough. And that doesn't just mean like physical toughness is the easy one to think about there, right? Like you get hit with a pitch. Well, you got a bad bruise, you got to be tough. Like there's that kind of toughness. But there's like, I got to be able to deal with the other things. I got to be able to deal with it not feeling good outside, my body being sore, the sun being in my eyes, the field being a minefield. I got to be able to deal with all those kinds of things too. So AAIT, I want to put that out just because, whenever you are feeling yourself struggle, like that's the first place to go, is to ask yourself, what's my attitude been like? Because that's 100% your control. You get to choose what that is. If your attitude sucks, everything will suck. If you decide that it's going to be bad, then it will be. I talk, whenever I talk about attitude, I always bring up like the significant other thing. It's like when you first meet somebody and you're dating them, you're super excited about it. Every text they send, you respond to right away, and you send them little, emojis, and if your phone dings, you're like, no matter what you're doing, right? But then, like, I don't know, like maybe maybe they're a bad chewer when they eat, and like, or it's disgusting to watch them, take a bite of food, or, they say something that you just hate, and all of a sudden, like, you're out. And then, like, when that text message comes, you're like, Christ, all right, I'll get to that in about 6 hours, and then 6 hours turns to like 2 days. And then eventually you just ghost them, and you never talk to them ever again, and they're gone. And it's your attitude, right? When you're thinking good things, you see good things. When you're thinking nothing but positive, it's kind of cute when they, stink after practice. It's kind of cute when they, do something stupid. But when you don't like them, it's revolting. So you've got to control your attitude first. You have to ask yourself, and then you got to remind yourself what your job is. Like in the heat of the game, the number one thing that kills performance is, let's say I'm at the plate, I go up to the plate, I've got the winning run at third base, everybody's screaming and cheering, there's 2 outs. If I don't get the run in, like we have to keep playing, and the number one killer is I walk up to the plate and I go, I got to get that run in. Like I got to win the game right here. And that just strangles you. When instead, what you should be doing is remembering your approach. What's my approach? Like, this person's throwing predominantly X pitch. I need to look for the pitch they're going to throw. I need to hit the pitch I'm looking for. I need to attack the inside half of the ball. Hit a line drive. I need to stick to my job. If I go in there and I blaze one up the middle, if it gets caught, it gets caught. So what? We move on and we keep playing. But that gives me the best chance of getting the job done, of a better chance. Now if you're talking about my guys, like their shackle is they try to hit a home run. If I hit a home run right here, game's over. It's a lot harder to hit a home run than it is to just hit a ball hard. So you got to remember your job, and then you have to ask, like, am I intense? Am I competing? Or am I not? And am I tough? Am I being a little soft? And everybody's a little soft. I mean, hell, we all have those things. I'm a little soft too. You get me in the right situation, bring my 10-year-old in, you'll see me go soft fast. I'm not a very good competitor when he and I are having a competition. I'm terrible. So you've got to go to those things first. Now, I also want you to think about, are you controlling the things that you can control? That's maybe the most important skill you'll have to have in your entire life. And it will go far beyond softball and far beyond school. You have to control what you can control, and you have to learn to let go of the things that you don't control. You have to learn that skill. And if you can't, you're going to struggle, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to focus on all the problems. You're going to focus on all the things that are going on. And as an athlete, there's so much of that. As an athlete, I mean, good God, the umpires are terrible. I mean, all the time. They're terrible. I've never been to a game my whole career in any sport, you know, and been like, geez, those umpires were bad up. Like, they did a great job today. You know, I come away from the game and I'm like, man, if these guys weren't umpiring games, like, they'd be out committing crimes. You know, that's probably what they would be doing. That's how I feel after most games. Like, these are bad people, you know. So you got umpires to deal with. You got to play for coaches, you know. And all of us coaches are bad too. You know, like the 9 people on the field we're usually good to that day, you know. But like, you know, but then you make a mistake and we're like, come on, Hall. You're better than that. You know, I mean, if it's me, I usually say that a much meaner way, you know, when I actually say it. But you got us, you know, and you can't control that. And then, you know, I mean, there's 9 spots on the lineup card. You know, it goes 1 through 9. It doesn't go to 11. It definitely doesn't go to 21. You know, I mean, you know, it just doesn't. And so only 9 names can be put on it. So you have to deal with that. You have to deal with, if you're pitching, like, I don't know, maybe you make a great pitch, you know, and maybe Warren, you know, kicks it off the end of her mid, you know, and strike 3 turns into first base. You know, maybe, you know, Cat doesn't make a diving play in center field and an out turns into a triple. You know, I mean, you got to deal with those kinds of things. And if you focus on those things, you'll just be in quicksand your whole life. You'll just get sucked down. Because in life, those things are going to be things like this. Like, people you love are going to get sick. You know, you're going to get into car trouble. You know, and like right now, car trouble, you know, for some of you is worse than others. For some of you, car trouble is a big deal. You know, right now, you're already in that. For some of you, car trouble is like, hey, Mom, Dad, like, I need a new front end on this car. And they're like, all right, we'll take care of it. But in 10 years, like, it's on you. You know, like in my family, like, if I have a flat tire, that's like DEFCON 6. I'm like, okay, that's $140. All right, who can we sell? Like, who's the first person on the list that we can get the most money for so we can get this tire replaced? You know, but I mean, you're going to deal with that. You know, you're going to deal with, you know, all kinds of things. You're going to have jobs come and go. You're going to have relationships start and end. You know, and if all you focus on is the stuff you can't control, if you focus on the external stuff, those things will constantly drag you down. So you need to start practicing through your sport, concentrating on what you can control, right? So, I don't know, Joe, tell me something you're in control of on the field. Your attitude, yeah, good. What you got, Allie Graydon?
How well I go after every ball.
Yeah, your effort, right? What's my effort look like on every ball? Faith, what can you control out there?
My plan before every pitch.
All right, having a plan, knowing what you're supposed to do, what's your job. Abby Hall, what can you control? That's all right, you're smart, you can think of other things.
Just basically my mentality.
Your mentality? Okay, all right. Anybody else? What else can we control? Because there's a lot.
How well did you do it on?
How well I get behind my teammates, absolutely, 100%. Right, 100%, I can control that. Right? And so all the things you're talking about are right. You can control your attitude, you can control your effort, you can control, you know, whether or not you're picking your teammates up. You know, you can control being in the right place. You can control having the right plan. You can control your intent. And you need to control those kinds of things. And you can control the way you deal with things. Right? Like, Dish, can you control it when the umpire calls a strike on the outside part of the plate that you think is a ball? No. But what you can control is you can control your response to it. You can control, it's real easy to let that get in your head, you know, and then the next at bat go, oh, I have to swing at everything. You know, or you can go, hey, sometimes you get hosed on a pitch. You know, that at bat's theirs. I'm going to walk back to the dugout, keep my head on straight, cheer for my next, you know, the next hitter that comes up there. And then the next at bat, I'm going to move about 2 inches closer to the plate. You know, 3 inches closer to the plate so that pitch looks a little bit more enticing to me. So maybe I want to swing at that pitch next time. And I'm going to accept that in doing so, I'm going to give up something. What are you going to give up if you make that approach? Yeah, you're going to give up a little bit on the inside, right? Right, so it's give and take. But you have to understand what you can control. When you are in control, you have power. When you're making the choice, you have power. When you give up control or you focus on things you can't control, you are relinquishing your power. And you're all very powerful people. You know, you're all capable. You're all smart. You're all gifted. You know, you're all capable. But you have a certain amount of personal power. And when you control the things you can control and you leave the rest of it aside, then you have a ton of personal power. But when you let the things you can't control dictate how you feel and who you are and what you're doing, you're handing your power over to the world. You're allowing yourself then to become a victim of what happens, as opposed to being a master of what happens. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be successful, right? Like, you can have a perfect mentality. You can do everything right. And every one of you has been in that situation on the ball field where you've done everything you're supposed to do, and it just doesn't work. Every hitter in here has smashed one that just got caught. Every pitcher's made a great pitch, and some hitter just stuck their butt out, threw their hands at it, you know, and hit a double in the opposite field gap. And you're like, good God. You know, like, everybody's been a part of that. But I want you to control what you can control. And I want you to think about the things that you can control and whether or not you've done a great job of it. Because then you'll start thinking about solutions as opposed to problems. The problem is a waste of your time. The problem is nothing more than identification. That's all you need when it comes to problems. Identify the problem, right? Because if you don't identify the problem, it's hard to come up with a solution. But if you dwell on the problem, if you think about the problem, if you're focused on the problem, and let's just say your problem is lineup card. That's my problem. Man, I'm just not getting to play much. You're going to be miserable because you don't write the lineup card. I mean, gosh, I want to play short, you know, but that son of a gun won't put me in shortstop. If all I do is focus on that, I should be doing this, I should be getting this, I should be there, well, then I won't be able to concentrate on what I really can control, which is, how am I going to work every day? What kind of effort am I putting in? Am I being a great teammate? If I never get in a game, that's not my fault. I'm not the one that decides. But I can decide, did I do everything? Because what I need at the end of the day is I need to be able to look in the mirror and I need to be able to say, Dash, did I do everything I could do to be the best player and the best teammate I could? And if I can say yes, it doesn't matter what else happened. Because that's what's going to carry you down the road. You know? And that's you taking care of what you can handle. And I'm just using that as one example. But we often think about the problems. I mean, how many of you have been in a pitching or a hitting slump where everybody's raising their hands? I didn't ask, but yeah, me too, like my whole career. You know, I had like a 5-year slump in college, So, you've been in slumps, right, where it's not going so well. And how many of you that have been in a slump have caught yourself going back to the dugout and being like, what the hell is going on? Why can't I get this right? Why the hell can I not? How come I can get in the cage and go, pow, 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 and drive it all over the yard and smash the hell out of it and feel like $1 million, and then I go in the game and like girls throwing 51 miles an hour fatties down Broad Street and I can't hit it. You know, I'm popping up, I'm grounding out, I'm out in front, I'm a little late, I'm down in the bullpen and flat, every pitch is right exactly where I want it. It's perfect. I'm spinning it, I'm changing speeds, I'm in and out, I'm up and down, everything looks awesome. That stupid bullpen buddy couldn't get a hit if his life depended on it. And then I get in the game and there are 9 hitters hitting doubles backside, and you go back to the dugout and you're like, what's wrong? Why the hell is this happening? And And all of that energy, while it's perfectly normal to feel, by the way, okay, it's perfectly reasonable to be upset and to be frustrated, but none of that moves you closer to the solution, right? The solution is usually something like, okay, the reason why I'm not hitting this pitch that I should be able to hit is because I'm trying to do a little too much with it. I need to remember my approach, or maybe my intensity. Maybe I'm burning a little too hot. Maybe I need to relax. Maybe I need a deep breath. Maybe I need to forgive myself if I don't have a perfect performance every time, because I'm not a perfect person and I never will be. Maybe the problem with those pitches is I'm getting in a game and now all of a sudden there's a scoreboard and I'm afraid to walk somebody, or I'm afraid to hit somebody, or I'm afraid to get hit. So I'm pitching away from the bat instead of pitching to the catcher. I'm pitching away from contact instead of pitching to the kind of contact that I want. And those are the things that you can control. You need to think of the solutions. You need to think of what can I do to improve. And you have to understand that it's not automatic. Like, I have a ton of respect for you guys, you know that. I loved coaching you in the fall. I thought we came a long way. And I am grateful because I know you guys, think that, like our baseball team does really good and all that. But we lose all the time. All the time we lose. I've lost more times at the end of the season in my career than I've won. I've got 8 conference championships in 19 seasons, that we've completed. And that means 11 times we didn't win it. There's a bunch of wins, but hell, there's like 340 something losses. I've lost more games than you guys have played in. So it's part of it. It's not always going to work. Like, you do it so that if you get 100 tries, you have, 60% success. Because that's how life is going to be. You're going to do a lot of things. You're going to try a lot of things. And not everything is always going to work. And you've got to be resilient when it doesn't. That's when you really get to figure out who you are and how you're going to make things happen, is how you respond when things don't go so well. You guys started your season out and you're like 100-0. You won every game, and it gets easy for a while. It's like, yeah, we're going to roll. Nobody can beat us. And then you get kicked in the teeth a couple of times, and then you start going, whoa, we didn't know this could happen. We didn't know that there was going to be a roadblock, but that's just the way that it goes, And so it's not that you lose games, right? Because you're going to, even if you're great, unless we can sign Kat Osterman, and she can come in and throw every single game, because she probably would still win every single game, she's superhuman, she ain't showing up, so you're gonna lose. That's gonna happen. The best teams in the world lose all the time. It's just part of it. And it's not that important. It's not the wins and losses that really matter. It's how you go about your business. It's how you conduct yourself. And from a mental standpoint, it's really how resilient can you be? How much, it's a stupid meme now because it was in Rocky Balboa, okay? But how much can you get hit and still keep moving forward? Because that's the truth. That's the truth about life, and that's the truth about sports, is you've got to be able to take a beating and keep on pushing forward and keep on being, just relentless. I talked about, or I asked the question about, who's feeling like they're letting somebody down, and almost every hand went up. So we probably could have done that one with our eyes open, okay? Expectations are just like hands around your throat. Expectations kill you. Expectations drag you down, okay? You cannot live your life to make other people happy. If you want to be a great competitor, if you want to have an elite mindset, If you want to be somebody that is resilient in life, you cannot worry about making other people happy. Okay? Now, someday you'll have a spouse and you'll have children. And of course, you're going to want to make those people happy, right? But those people are going to love you. And all you're really going to have to do to make them happy, if they're a decent person, is be kind and be consistent and make good decisions. And they'll be happy with you. They'll love you. If they're not happy with that, you ditch that, whoever that is, and go find somebody else that will be happy with that. Okay? But if you are trying to make someone else happy, if I'm your coach and you're playing and you're worried about my expectations, you're not going to be at your best. You're just not. You know? I mean, period. Because how the hell could you possibly know what my expectations are? You know? I mean, I don't know, Hannah, what are my expectations of your performance? That's about as close as you could get to being right. You know, because you can't read my mind. You don't know what I sit there and go, well, Hannah Mount should probably hit X, Y, Z, and she should pitch blah, 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 blah. Like, it's crazy. That's like going into an archery contest and not knowing where the target is and just shooting arrows randomly into the open. You know, and hoping you hit the target. It's impossible. You know, it's impossible to do. You just get mired in it. So the only expectations that you ever have to live up to are your own. And your expectations need to be set in a manner that you can accomplish them. If you have goals that are reliant on other people doing their job, it's a terrible goal. Like, if my goal as a pitcher is to go undefeated, like, that's great. You know, if you're playing Nintendo, like, you probably accomplish that. But in real life, like, for me to go undefeated, like, Chloe's got to get a hit every at bat. Abby's got to make every play. You know, like, Reagan's not allowed to get hurt. She has to be healthy so she can play, and Lindley too. You know, Macy, you know, you're not allowed to pitch. If I'm going to go undefeated, you know, my coach better put me in the lineup. Like, for me to have that kind of a goal, and I'm using that as hyperbole, but some of you, you know, I think the goals are like, I got to go 3 for 4. You know, I gotta keep them under 2 runs. You know, and you're using like statistical probabilities to determine what your expected performance is, and you can't live up to that. You need to narrow your focus. What can you do? If you're a hitter, I can see the ball, I can swing at good pitches, and I can hit balls hard. If I'm a pitcher, I can understand what I'm trying to do with this pitch. I can know where the location's going to be. I can do everything in my power to hit that location. If you're a fielder, you can want the ball. You can want the ball. You can be hungry for the ball. Hit that son of a bitch to me and go make it play. And that's the best you can do. And if you can narrow it down to that, you've got a much better shot. Okay? So focus less on expectation. Don't worry about making mom and dad happy. Not with your performance. Like, make them happy because you don't do meth. Like, that's where you need to make your parents happy. Graduate from college. You know, run around with good people. You know, get tangled up with the right kinds of people. Marry a good person. You know, that will make your parents happy. Going 2 for 4 with a double and 2 RBIs or throwing a shutout, I mean, yeah, they're going to be excited for you. But that's not what's going to make them happy with you or satisfied with you. To hell with those expectations. Meet your expectations. Be satisfied with your performances. What I want you to do now, because I know I've been rambling on, and I can go not as long as I thought, it's only 30 minutes. Okay? But here's something tangible. Okay? Something tangible that I think you can sink your teeth into a little bit and focus. All right? Anybody keep catching themselves trying to, like, impact the game? You know, like you're out there and you're pitching and it's like the game is on the line. You're in the box and it's like I got a chance to win the game. You know, like, are you feeling that? Anybody feeling some of that? Or if you're not getting in the game, you know, because some of you aren't getting in the game. I mean, that's reality too. Not getting in the game, I don't matter. You know, anybody got any of that? You don't have to raise your hands. You know, all right? What I'm going to challenge you to do is make the game simpler. All right, Emily, I'm going to ask you this, like, can you win the game with like an at-bat?
I mean, you're in the right specific position.
If you're in the
Technically,
exact, if you're in the exact moment at the end of the game, you know, you could technically get a game-winning base hit, right? Okay, but by and large, can you win the game with your at-bat? No, it's too big, right? It's too big. I mean, Grace, can you win the game on one pitch? No, it's too big, all right? So in your performance, and even if you could, like if we're talking about the whole game, all right, Emily, we're talking about, okay, if you're in the right spot, what about the previous 20 outs? You get 21 outs in a softball game, right? What about the previous 20 outs? All of those outs have to lead up to that last out for you to have a chance to impact the game like that, on that scale. If those at-bats are different, then your at-bat probably matters more or matters less, all right? You got to stop thinking about it in terms of winning the game. You've got to stop thinking about it in terms of this large-scale, big picture, win the game, win the season, get to the playoffs, win the conference. Those things are too big to do in any one time. What you can do is you can win the pitch. That's the only thing that you can affect, one at a time, is you can win the pitch. So my challenge to you is to change your perspective from, did I go 2 for 4? You know, did I throw 6 shutout innings? Did I make every play? Did I accomplish X, Y, Z in the game? The challenge is, how many pitches can you win? If you're a pitcher, how do you win a pitch, Hayden? If you're the pitcher, how do you win the pitch?
How I win the pitch?
Yeah. What's a win?
Bad contact or, you know.
No. Why is bad contact not winning the pitch for you?
Because it's out of control.
It's out of your control. Are you in charge of whether the hitter makes good contact? No, right?
Okay, my spots.
Okay, here you go. Did you execute the pitch? That's how you win the pitch as a pitcher. Once the ball leaves your hand, it's no longer in your control. As soon as the ball leaves your hand, and this is for all of you pitchers, you don't get to pick. What if you get negative contact? And then the third baseman doesn't make the play? What if Amani comes screaming in because she's a great athlete and she picks it up and she throws off balance off the run, you know, on the run, and she hits the runner in the side of the head? You know, then you executed, but you didn't win, if that's your criteria. So if you're pitching, execute the pitch. That's how you win. Who cares? Who cares if they hit it? Now that doesn't mean like, oh, I'm not going to be disappointed if I get knocked around and give up a bunch of runs. Obviously you're competing, okay? But you've done your job if you've executed the pitch. You can't be more talented than you are. You can't be nastier than you are, right? That's not realistic. But you can be the best for what you can do. That's what you can control. You can be the best Hayden Joyner, Grace Kendrick, Hannah Mounts, Monty Green, Athens Hudson, Macy Andrews. Am I missing any pictures? I'm sorry if I'm missing somebody. I don't think I am, you know. So if you're a pitcher, win the pitch. Locate, spin the ball the right way, have the right attitude, have the right mentality. If you're a hitter, win the pitch. Allie Green, how do you win a pitch?
I make sure that I'm seeing the ball all the way.
Okay, see the ball, right? That's the first thing, right? See the ball. What's another piece?
Making sure I put a good swing on it.
Put a good swing, right? See the ball, put a good swing. And there's only one other component. What's the one other piece? Nope, not under your control. Because you can hit a rocket, right? You can hit a laser. Somebody might just catch it.
Might actually after the fact.
You control that. Swing at the right pitch. That's it. That's how you win a hit. That's how you win the pitch as a hitter. You see the ball, swing at the right pitch, put a great swing on it. That's what you can control. Right? Take the bad ones. You do that over and over and over again. That's how you win. That's how you log those cues. I don't know if you guys still talk about quality at bats or not. You know, I don't know if that's part of the system anymore, and it's okay if it's not. It's not the only way to do it. You know, but that's how you put together winning at bats. You win the pitch. In the field, how do you win a pitch? Emma, how do you win a pitch in the field?
Giving all your effort to make a play.
Yeah. I'll make it simpler. You want the ball. You win a pitch in the field by expecting them to hit it to you, wanting them to hit it to you, and knowing what you're going to do with it. Faith said that earlier. Having a plan before every play. Understanding what you're going to do. That's how you win the pitch in the field. How do you win a pitch, Haley Love, from the dugout? Yeah. You cheer your teammates on. Now that's the external piece. What's the internal piece of that? Because there's 21 of you, and only 9 can be on the field. So there's more of you on the bench than there is on the field. Okay? What's the internal piece from the dugout to win a pitch? How do you really win the pitch? Because I could go, let's go Hayden. You can do it. Yeah, good pitch. Nice job. That was awesome. Let's go. Woo! And I'm technically cheering. What's the internal piece?
You made it.
I'm asking Haley Love.
Oh, sorry.
Having care for them to when they're at bat and picking them up if they don't.
Say it louder.
Having care for them that they when they're at bat and picking them up if they
Yeah.
don't.
Actually giving a damn. Actually caring. Like having it be meaningful. And that's hard. Like, that's hard. I mean, gosh, Lord knows I want Dish to strike out at least some of the time so that I get a chance. You know, I mean, you know, like it's easy to fall into that trap. Like I wish somebody would suck so that I can get in. Okay, but that's poison. That's poison to you. It's poison to you. You have to care. You have to want them to do well. You have to genuinely care. And sometimes you even have to care about people you don't like. You know, like, don't tell anybody. I don't like you. But we're teammates, and so I hope you get a hit. Because that will help us win. We're not going to cheer for you, but when we leave the field, like, we're not hanging out. You know? Don't text me. Don't call me. Get off my socials. Like, we're done. Right? Like, you don't have to love somebody off the field to be a great teammate for that person. You know? And so, that's how you win the pitch when you're not playing. So my challenge to you is, how many pitches can you go and win? Because success is not about winning and losing the games. Winning and losing the game is a byproduct of having a great process. And it is a byproduct of winning as many pitches as you can win. How many pitches are thrown in a typical 7-inning game? Anybody know? Anybody got any ideas? You can make a guess. Go ahead. Because I don't know. I can't tell you if you're right or wrong. Huh? Probably. That's probably a good guess. I think you guys throw a little less pitches than we do. Okay? So that's probably a pretty accurate guess. So if it's 115 for one team, right? Who's a math whiz? That's like 700 for the whole game, right? Okay, 230 pitches on average for a 7-inning game. It's actually a little less than that if the home team wins because they don't play the last half. Okay, but let's just say 230 pitches. If you focus on winning pitches and you win 2/3 of the pitches that you see over the course of the entire game, you have a pretty good chance of a positive outcome. It doesn't guarantee it. I'll give you a great example. Here's an example in my experience. When my teams score 7 or more runs historically over my entire career, we win 94% of the time. If we score at least 7 runs in a game, regardless of what the opponent does. Our last 3 games that we've lost, we scored 9, 7, and 8 runs. So we have a 94% chance to win those games. We lost all 3. You know, like, there's no guarantees. You know, there's no guarantees. You can do it right and you still lose. And hell, we got our ass beat in the last one. You know, so sometimes you do it right and you lose. But if your process is good and you focus on the process and you go at it one pitch at a time, you put yourself in the best position to win. And that's really all you can do as an athlete, is try to put yourself in position to win. Go compete for that pitch. And then when that pitch is over, let that pitch go and go on to the next one. It does not mean that you don't care. If you go into the at-bat and you pop up, you swung at a good pitch, you saw the ball well, you just missed, and you pop up, going back to the dugout and beating yourself up for the next 2 hitters at bats is not going to make that pop-up land. Like, it happened. It's over. You've got to let it go. You've got to learn how to move on and go to the next thing. You know, you get fired from a job, lamenting it does not get the job back. No, you go out and you get a new job. You know, if old buddy's a jerk and you got to dump his ass, you know, don't waste your heart on it. Go find another buddy. You know, it doesn't suck. Focus on solutions. Focus on what the things you can control are. And don't waste your time on the things that already happened. They're over. They're over. It's done. You give up a big hit, you make an error, you don't get a hit, move on to the next thing. How can I win the next pitch? If I get a hit, guess what? It's over. It's over. How do I win the next pitch? Now I'm on first or second base. How do I win the next pitch? Maybe it's stealing. Maybe it's advancing on a dirt ball. Maybe it's making a great read on the next ball in contact. But if I'm still living in my double, and I don't want to insult you guys, but I have watched this happen in some of your games that I've taken a peek at, where you've made some mistakes and gotten away with them mostly. Okay, on the basis is you're still celebrating. The next play happens. You're not 100% sure what you're supposed to do. You know, like, you can enjoy it. You know, get to second base, woo, you know, whatever your thing is, you know, you're silly. I just learned that term. But then it needs to immediately be like, where's the outfield? Where's the shortstop playing? Who's hitting? What's the count? You know, like, because if there's 2 outs, I play it different when I'm on third than I play when there's 1 out. You know, when I'm at third and there's 2 outs, if somebody smashes a line drive, I gotta score. You know, I'm running, I'm gone. But if there's 1 out and somebody smashes a line drive when I'm at third, I have to take my first step back, right? If I'm at second and there's nobody out, like a ground ball in front of me, I have to know where the shortstop is. It's got to get past the third baseman if the shortstop is behind me, but if the shortstop's in the hole, I have to see it through before I can advance. Like, there's those little things. If you're living in the past, you won't get them. And that's the difference between being a great heads-up player, you know, and then just being, you know, a regular player. So 1 pitch at a time. Be thinking about how you win that pitch. And then worry about the evaluations afterwards, right? But set your evaluation period accurately. If you're playing a lot and you're evaluating yourself after every game, you're going to be miserable. Because good Lord, you know, like, you're going to go 1 for 3, 2 for 4, over 2, 5 for 5, you know, 1 for 4. It's going to be like that, you know? I mean, it's just hard. So if you're playing a lot, like, you got to give yourself a 20 at bat period of time to evaluate yourself. You know, if you're pitching You have to give yourself, a little bit more. Like, you got to evaluate, like, okay, over 10 innings, how's that look? If you're not playing a lot, well, then your evaluation needs to be, okay, how ready was I to go? How good was my pregame work? Was I thinking about situations in the game where I might be used? Okay? Because even if you never go in, you still have to have a head for it. Because, look, I was an excellent bench player the last 2 years in college because I wasn't good enough to start. That's just the truth. I was a damn good junior college player. I played just about every game. I was a fantastic JUCO guy. And at Columbus State, I had shoulder surgery and elbow surgery my very first semester there. And I'd love to say that's the reason why I didn't really play that much. But the reality is we just had guys get better than me, and they played ahead of me. But what I was good at is I was good at going, okay, I'm going to get used late in games for defense. Like, that's the predominant way that I'm going to get used. So if it's a tight game and David Brown's at bat comes in the 7th or 8th inning, I'm probably going to play the 8th or 9th. Like, I need to have my head on straight. That means when I play, if a ball gets hit to me, it's probably winning or losing the game. It's a big play. So in my mind, I had to really work hard on, like, okay, I have to want that ball. To be successful, I have to want them to hit me the ball. I have to expect to go in the game, and then I have to want the ball to get hit to me when that happens. And that was what I had to constantly remind myself to do. And if we played 10 of those games, I only got into like 1. But I had to prepare all 10 times for that one chance. So that when I got in there, I was ready for it, and I could do my job. Not so I could get in there again. Not because it was do this or else, but because I wanted our team to win. Like, that's the key. If you're not playing a lot, if you push for playing time, you're going to struggle because you're not going to be who you are when it's time to play. If you focus on helping win the game, you'll be who you are. You'll give your team a chance. And then the byproduct of that is more opportunities down the road. Okay? So play one pitch at a time. I promise I'm getting close to the end. I know I talk a long time. All right. 2 little things. We're talking about process, like, let's understand what the components of winning a ball game are. So that we're not just talking mental game. I am giving you something that you can go out and you can go, okay, how do we win? Because right now my feel is you're looking around and you're going, we just got our asses beat in the first few conference games. And we got to figure out how to get it turned around. Am I right or wrong? That's okay. We've gotten our asses beat in a few as well. Okay? Now, how do you win the game? There's really like 3 or 4 basic components. There's just basic things you have to be able to do in order to win a ball game. What do we think those are? Somebody raise your hand and give me some ideas. If you were listening to me in the fall, you probably heard me say them over and over and over again. So I try to make it as simple as I can.
Catch, throw, and hit.
Catch, throw, and hit. Yeah, those are part of it. That's, it's funny because you're kind of being funny, but that's pretty close.
No, it really wasn't.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah. Well, I'm just saying everybody started laughing. But that's really close, because it's simple. Throw strikes. Catch it when they hit it to you. Yeah, right. No, I'm making you right. Right? You throw strikes. You gotta catch it when they hit it to you. And you gotta put the damn ball in play. Right? It really is that simple. Like, there's a lot more to it, of course, as you get into the nuts and bolts, but that's the core thing. If you go out there and your process is, we're going to throw a ton of strikes, we're going to catch the ball when they hit it to us, and I'm going to put the ball in play, you're going to be in every game, except for the occasional laugher. But you'll be on the right side of some of them laughers too. You already have been, So focus on that stuff. Focus on what you can control. we're not like out of time, but, so, questions or specifics? Anything I can specifically talk about to any of you, or, you know, that you have questions individually about that I can answer or talk about, or any of that stuff. And hopefully you find this at least somewhat helpful. Yes?
Where do you find or keep motivation to win the pitch?
Say it again.
Where or how can you keep finding motivation to win?
That's a great question. It's hard. It's hard. You have to make it important to you. You know, it's kind of like, you know, why do you brush your teeth every morning? You know, when you first start brushing your teeth, like, you have to really, you know, usually it's mom and dad make you do it. You know, and then eventually it starts becoming important to you. You know, some people it's not important to, they don't do it. You know, but it's one of those things where, like, you know, you have to work at it because it's really hard. It's very simple, but it's really hard. So what I would say is you probably want to give yourself some sort of reminder. You know, and that might be as simple as, like, you know, you guys don't really wear tape the way that our guys do. You know, our guys will like tape their wrist, and so I might tell one of them to write it on the wrist, you know, to remind themselves, you know, or in the bill of their hat. You know, for you, it might be something else. You might write it on your hand, you know, or something, or put it on your glove, you know. But, you know, you probably want to put something somewhere where you remind yourself it's one pitch at a time. You know, you can do stuff like, you know, you can get a ball in your bag. You can write on that ball one pitch at a time. And every game, you can take that ball and just sit it in your bag, where when you come back to the dugout, you can go over to your bag, you can look in it, and you can see one pitch at a time, and you can give yourself that little reminder and then do the best you can. But it won't happen instantly. You know, it's something that you have to really work at, and then you have to understand, like, just because you're doing it right, like, it's not always going to go well. I mean, even before I said, like, trying to win 2 out of 3. You know, if you can win 2 out of 3 pitches, that's a pretty good start. You know, but that means if there's 230 pitches in a game, you're going to lose 60 of them. You know, 70. You're not going to win every pitch. But that's the goal, is to win as many pitches as you can win. You know, and if you can get to the point where you're only playing 1 pitch at a time, you will be a happier player and a happier person. That I can guarantee you. Because you won't have the luggage that you're pulling around with you from all the other ones. I don't know, any other questions? You got me here, ask away. Any other things that you guys want to talk about, period? Anything I can do to help you perform?
What do you think is the best way to stop being afraid of failure?
Well, that's tough. That's a good question. I think, you know, yeah, stop this thing, first of all. You know, I think that, you know, being afraid to fail, I think, is a very natural thing for a high achiever. You know, you're a good high school player, right? You know, good travel ball player, probably were pretty good in Little League, you know, and those kinds of things, you know. And so I think when you're a high achiever, and everybody in this room is a high achiever, like you didn't get to college without being a high achiever in your sport. So when you're a high achiever, you know, like that gets expressed like in 2 ways. Either you're super arrogant, you know, you can be, or you can be afraid to screw up, you know. And a lot of times it's because you're not used to screwing up. You're not used to failing. It's not normal for you. So, you know, I don't know, you may or may not be like me, but like, so let's say my wife says to Ash, will you know, go to Publix on the way home and pick up a gallon of milk? Like, I'm okay with that. I'm like, yeah, of course. All right. Now in my mind, I've got a plan. I'm committed to going to get that gallon of milk. Now, if I'm walking into Publix and she sends me a text and says, hey, also, could you please go to, you know, Lowe's and grab, you know, this thing for the yard? Like, really in my heart, I could care less. That's fine. Like, I don't mind. I like Lowe's. You know, I'll go in there and I'll look around. But in the moment, I'm like, good God, no, I don't want to do that. Now, of course, when I text, of course, happy to go, you know. But I don't like change. change and things that are different for me are difficult to deal with. And so when you're a high achiever, failure is change. Failure is different, and it's hard to deal with. So I think the best way I can tell you to deal with failure is you really need to take care of yourself. Like you need to think about like how you feel about who you are as a person, and you have to put that above how you perform as an athlete. Because the goal is to get to where you're fearless in competition. And the way you become fearless in competition is by being comfortable with the choices that you're making and comfortable with the actions that you're taking. And that can be a really difficult thing to do because everybody's always in a different place in their life with how they feel about themselves, and people have ups and downs, but I would say, maybe one of the things that would help you is to, sit down with a couple sheets of paper, and write out the things that you like about yourself, both as a player, but also, and maybe more importantly, as a person, and lean into those things and remind yourself that you are not worth your performance. Like what makes you valuable as Faith Gauthier, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, okay? What makes you valuable as a person is not, did you get a hit today? Did you make a play in the outfield, or did you make an error? Like, that is not who you are. Who you are as a human being is so much more than that, and worth so much more than your best performance. Like, never mind, you're not being judged, you don't judge yourself by your worst. You're better as a human than your best softball performance. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, this is not even close to being the most important thing you're going to do in your life. Even if you play pro ball, like you get out of here, you play pro ball, they create a women's league where you can make millions of dollars and you go to the Hall of Fame, okay? Like even if all of that happened, you'd still always be more than your best performance. And so I wish I could tell you like there's a trick, but I think that's the starting point. And then I think the next thing is to tell yourself, sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. Like sometimes you gotta bolster yourself, and you gotta, I don't know how to tell girls how to say these things because I don't know how girls say them to themselves. Like I don't know. I don't know what's the female version of stud. Is there a female like equivalent to that? Huh? Her? Is that what somebody just said? I mean, you got to tell yourself like and I'm sorry that I'm using this language because I don't know the translation. You got to tell yourself like I'm a stud. I'm a great player. I'm the woman. Like you have to tell yourself that you're great and that you can do it and that failure isn't what defines you. But I wish I could just tell you like an ironclad, like, oh yeah, hey, do this and you'll never be afraid to fail. But I think that's your starting point. I don't know what else. Okay, I'm going to leave you with one last thing, and then I think somebody asked, was it you that asked to say after we can? You have to be all in. If you are not all in, it will never work. And I mean as a team. You have to be all in, right? You have to be all in. You cannot be 99%, all right? If you are 99% in, you will crumble when it matters. And that's hard to get 100%. It's hard. I don't know if it exists in most teams. Okay, it's very, very rare, but it's each of your individual jobs to make sure that you are 100% in. That does not mean that you agree with everything that happens. It does not mean that you like every decision that's made. It does not mean that, you have to be satisfied in the role that you are in, okay? But you have to be 100% committed. And how that looks is this, right? Like, let's just say I think I should be a shortstop, okay? And I'm either not playing or I'm playing a different position. I'm playing second, batting ninth. I think I should be playing short, batting third, okay? And that's kind of where my evaluation is of where I ought to be, okay? 100% committed means that I'm going to be the best second baseman that I'm absolutely capable of being 100% of the time. I'm never going to shake my head at the lineup card. I'm never going to commiserate. I'm never going to be like, somebody else on the team that thinks I'm supposed to, like, that's not all in. And that's poison. Be all in. Be all in. You won't understand every decision. You won't understand everything that happens. You don't have to. Don't worry about that. That's the problem. But that's a problem. Focus on the solution. Be the best at what you can do, and then you've got a better shot at being good. So I appreciate you guys and your time. I have a lot of confidence that you can do well the rest of the way. I really do. I believe in you. I believe you're capable. I believe every one of you is a quality player, and I believe that it doesn't matter which 9 of you are on the field at a given time. I really do think you have an opportunity to win. I would encourage you as players to maintain your confidence in terms of if you see things, if you see opportunities in games, to take advantage of those opportunities and to play fearless, not to worry about the bad things that can happen, but I do. I believe in this group. I believe you guys can do well, and I think all you need to do is believe in each other, believe in yourselves, play together, and you've got a pretty good shot of doing some damage the rest of the way, and the rest of these teams ain't shit. Get after it, get after it and compete hard, and it'll be okay, all right? If anybody needs to stick around or anybody has any other questions, I'll hang out for a little while, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.